All right, everybody, good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well today. You're probably doing pretty well today if you watch this channel a lot because we're still enjoying Victory Monday right now. Still ready to see what the rest of the season holds for us, but we know we're going to be chilling for about a week here. And we had some stuff happen earlier today that kind of sort of relates to the Seattle Seahawks, so I want to go ahead and talk about it for a little bit. Obviously, during the 2025 season, I didn't talk a lot about what was going on in Las Vegas with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith because it doesn't directly relate to the Seahawks, but I think we all know that there is some relation to the Seattle Seahawks when you look at what's going on in Las Vegas. So while I didn't want to make consistent updates about what was going on there, I do want to talk about this because there's some pretty strong finality here. The Raiders have fired Pete Carroll. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. So Pete Carroll officially goes one and done in Las Vegas. He signed a 3-year deal, so the Raiders are going to eat some of that money, but obviously keeping Carroll beyond this year was pretty untenable. I think we all knew this was going to happen. It was just a matter of was it going to happen today or tomorrow, but it has happened today. Carroll is out. And I mean, there's not really too much to say about the decision. The Raiders were the worst team in the league in 2025. They Two of their wins were against pretty much equivalently bad teams, right? They beat the Chiefs with a third string quarterback. They beat the Titans. So there really isn't much to say here. It had to happen. Beyond just losing, the team looked completely incompetent and completely dysfunctional. So it was kind of a no-brainer call for them. And so probably ends the career of the greatest Seattle Seahawks head coach ever, or at the very least, the most successful. Some people might say, Chuck Knox was better. Some people might say Mike Holmgren was better. Obviously, Mike McDonald's working on it, but Pete Carroll is clearly the most successful head coach in Seahawks franchise history. And now I have to believe his career is over in the NFL. Maybe he'll get a job in like a front office somewhere. Maybe he'll become some kind of a advisor in a place like San Francisco. Maybe he'll do something, but I do not think there is any possibility that he's ever going to be a head coach again. And I don't think he'll ever be a defensive coordinator again. Clearly that part of the game is just not there for him anymore. I'm going to say it again. The Raiders weren't just the worst team in the league. They were run so dysfunctionally and they were so out of sorts and they looked so non-competitive in some of their games that it was a no-brainer. And it's kind of a no-brainer at this point that he just cannot coach anymore. So I don't think I need to go into detail of why this affects the Seahawks currently because couple of years ago, almost to the day, 2 years ago, this team decided to move off of Pete Carroll after a 9-win season. Not everybody was on board with it. Not everybody thought it was a good decision at that point in time, but the team did it, and they have been rewarded for it very richly. And while I don't want to make it sound like we're enjoying what's going on with Pete Carroll right now, we got to see Pete Carroll go somewhere else and prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that we were right to move off of him when we did, because say whatever you want to say about how bad the Raiders are, and they are bad, but there's no excuse for how big a step back they took in 2025 under a coach who was supposed to offer stability, who was supposed to give them a little bit of a higher floor and at least get them set on the right direction. I want to stress that here. Carroll was not brought in to necessarily make the Raiders a playoff team. He was brought in to offer stability, and he ended up providing the exact opposite of that. So we'll see what goes on with the Raiders in this offseason. Obviously, it's not going to have a lot to do with us, I don't think, unless we do the Max Crosby trade, which I think is on the table. But Pete Carroll is fired, one and done, and I doubt he'll ever coach again. So, I mean, mixed feelings for sure. Obviously, Pete Carroll, beloved figure in Seattle sports for good reason. If I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't appreciate the way he conducted himself and some of the things he said on the way out when Seattle fired him a couple years ago. So to see him prove that he doesn't have it anymore in Las Vegas the way that he has, there is a certain element of relief that things worked out this way. But beyond that, it is also a thing where it's like I want his career to be over because that this was sad. This was sad to watch. He finally had the disaster season that it felt like he was going to have in Seattle the last few years, but never quite did. Just kept finding ways to push off that one disaster season year after year. And then he went to the Raiders when I think most people would have just called it good and said, okay, I'm going to retire now. I'm done. I'm the oldest coach in the league. The game has probably passed me by. I got to leave Seattle with some dignity because I actually had back-to-back winning seasons at the end. But he couldn't stay away, and he had to go through this, and it was kind of humiliating. It's the same thing with Russell Wilson, right? I don't want to watch former Seattle legends embarrass themselves late in their career on other teams. So hopefully Pete Carroll doesn't coach again because clearly he cannot do it anymore. Same with Russell Wilson, and we'll probably have a Russell Wilson conversation later this offseason. But for now, good luck, Pete Carroll, and whatever you do next. But I hope that it's not coaching football because I don't want to see a redux of the 2025 Raiders. All right, so that's the main thing. There is one other thing that happened today that is pertinent to the Seahawks on some level. The Cardinals, a division rival, fired their head coach as well. Jonathan Gannon is out. I got mixed feelings on this one. I don't think Gannon was as bad as I thought he was going to be. I think that Gannon did do some good things, but you can't. What would they do? Go 3-14 and lose their last 9 games, I think, in 2025? You can't do that in year 3 and expect to keep your job. It's just not possible. So obviously they had no choice. I do think that there is something to be said about how wrong it is that they hired Jonathan Gannon and had him for 3 years and never allowed him to go get his own quarterback. They forced him to subsist on the quarterback that he inherited and then Jacoby Brissett. That feels wrong. That kind of feels like you set the guy up for failure. Now, again, I think that Arizona was so bad this year, they had to move off of him anyway. It still feels wrong to me that he never got a chance to go get his quarterback. Cardinals will be keeping their GM, Austin Fort, and he will be looking for the new head coach here. So we'll see who Arizona ends up with. It'll probably be somebody better than Gannon. I will admit that Gannon wasn't necessarily good. I do think he was better than most people would have expected. Certainly better than I expected when they hired him. But Cardinals looking for a new head coach. So far, we've also got Atlanta. Atlanta fired their coach yesterday. The Browns fired Stefanski. And I think that's it right now. I think those are the only openings. So it's 4 right now. Harbaugh, for the moment, is still in Baltimore. I haven't heard anything about Harbaugh getting fired yet. Still kind of thinking it's going to happen. Bengals already committed to Zach Taylor for 1 more year. So he's not going to get let go. I wonder if Andy Reid retires. I think Sean McDermott could get fired if they don't win a playoff game next week or this upcoming week. But for the moment, it seems like things have passed relatively peacefully. Obviously, teams like the Titans and Giants already had openings. Oh, excuse me, already had openings, but it's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be today so far. Now, one thing going on with Seattle, and this directly pertains to Seattle, is this right here from Pelissaro. The Falcons, as of right now, to my knowledge, are the only team that has requested Klint Kubiak for an interview, but the Falcons have requested an interview with Klint Kubiak for the head coaching job. Kubiak can give interviews during the bye week. So this is certainly an opportunity for Kubiak. That Falcons offense has some real talent on it. I think he'd be very excited to see what's up over there. So would not shock me if this is something that ends up sparking mutual interest. So be prepared, guys. If Kubiak becomes a head coach this offseason, I'm not going to be surprised at all. And I think overall, the way he's coached this year, he deserves an opportunity. But personally, I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I really like him, and I think that another year could make this offense supercharged beyond what we even saw this year. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. We'll see what happens. See if there are any more openings, but the um the silly season is upon us for most teams. Not for the Seahawks quite yet, but silly season is here. All right. Everyone have a good day. Go Hawks. More videos soon.